Well, folks, this is going to be a fantastic Leading Your Best Life. I'm with a man in Silicon Valley, Mitchell Levy, and I'm going to get him to tell us all about his life. It's come in, someone said, you've got to talk to this guy. He's made a huge difference to a whole lot of people's lives. He's got books, he's got certificates, but let's dig into it. Mitchell, welcome to Leading Your Best Life.
Lee, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to getting to know you better.
Mate, as you said, you've been to Sydney, but you're in Silicon Valley right now. But before we get into it, I can see you've got, I know many books that you've written. So I want to talk about some of those books and your passions and how you've helped people lead their best lives. But maybe if we start with a 2 or 3 minute background, what's been your journey to get to where you are now? And by the way, I know you've got a hat on. That I've got my hat here as well. My lead flow equals sales flow equals cash flow equals freedom hat. But yours is a cool little hat over there as well. But mate, tell us about the Mitchell Levy backstory.
Oh, by the way, last name's Levy.
Levy. Okay.
Let me tell you what people consider success, and then we could dive into anything more. So
Sure.
I've been in Silicon Valley for 39 years, happily married for 37 years, have a 27-year-old son who's amazing. I've started 20-ish companies. I've sat on the board of a public firm. I've created executive business programs at Silicon Valley organizations. I have run really fun companies, including a book publishing company. We've published over 750 books. I've written
Wow.
65 myself. I think if we're going to now fast forward, we're
You're
really,
such an underachiever. You're such an underachiever, Mitchell. Really. That's
dude,
unbelievable. Yeah.
I'm a people in Silicon Valley is often known for the serial entrepreneur. It's the person who spends all their time, energy, getting a company funded, and then, if they're lucky, going public and then doing it again.
Uh-huh.
So I'd rather be in a service-based firm and be a parallel entrepreneur where I have a couple different activities, two, three, or four going at the same time.
Uh-huh.
So just
Parallel activities. I like it.
so
Okay.
so I call myself a parallel entrepreneur.
I'm going to make a note. I'm going to be making notes as we go through because I'm here to learn and be a student as well. So
Well, you should.
parallel
So
entrepreneur. Okay.
let me tell you what made me. There were many times in life where whatever I've been doing just sort of went away. The first time was during the dot-com days, or actually we'll roll all the way back. I was at Sun Microsystems for 9 years, left in 1997. Sun is the company that's known as helping to commercialize the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And during the dot-com days, when the e-commerce boom happened, you just had to spell the word e-commerce and you'd make money. So
Mm-hmm.
I became an e-commerce consultant, made a really good business. And then around the 2020, 2021 timeframe, we had the dot bust.
Mm-hmm.
The dot bust happened. My e-commerce consulting business, nice six-figure business, went to zero almost overnight. Now, what was interesting at the time, I was running this is the parallel entrepreneur part. I was running a company with a couple friends of mine called CEO Networking. It was like a Vistage, a CEO networking group. I
Mm-hmm.
was making $60,000 a year. And I was just about ready to kick that to the side because I just had no time for it. But all of a sudden, when my six-figure business went to zero, 60,000 a year seemed like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So what that lesson taught me was all good things come to an end. No, let's put that aside. That's true though. That you need to be able to put not all your eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other thing, and this is a really important lesson, I didn't do anything to cause my business to go to zero. The market around me did.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw that happening again with my book publishing company, started a book publishing company in 2005. That's why we've been able between 2005 and typically I would say probably 2020. What ended up happening is COVID actually hit my publishing business with a truck, and then Amazon ran over it two or three times.
Mm-hmm.
What happened is I saw the democratization of book publishing happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized in 2019, I've got to figure out what's next. And what I thought to myself is, well, what do the authors I publish, what do they really look for? And the answer is they're looking for credibility. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's interesting. What's the definition of credibility in the dictionary? And I didn't like it. It said the quality in which one is trusted. And I go, wait, the credibility is bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
Following day, I woke up and I thought to myself, Napoleon Hill interviewed 500 millionaires and wrote the book Think and Grow Rich.
Mm.
Mitchell Levy is going to interview 500 thought leaders and write a book. That turned out to be the book Credibility Nation. And that year of interviewing people between 2019 and 2020 really set the stage for who I am today. And I could tell a lot more from there, but I thought I'd give you a break and or stop and let you ask the next question.
Well, I like to go back even further. Tell me about your childhood. Where did you grow up, and what did you do education wise?
So I grew up in the East Coast of the United States. Spent a lot of time in New Jersey, and the way I often see it, I was a B, C, D student through high school, and I probably a better way to say it is I was asleep until my first semester of college, and
Okay.
so I just don't remember a lot of my early youth, and then when I entered college. I ended up hanging out with two gorgeous women,
Oh,
and
why did you do that? Why did you do that? I wonder.
I
Yeah, 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 yeah,
surprise.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I went to the University of Miami in Miami, Florida, Coral Gables, Florida, actually. And it turns out that these two girls for Friday nights, what they thought was fun was to hang out in the library. So I hung out in the
Wow.
library.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In my first semester, I ended up getting two B's the rest days. The
Mm.
second semester, I got one B the rest days, and then the rest of my college career, I got all A's. So that's what I would say is when I kind of woke up.
They were good. They were a very good influence on you. We have a proverb, a French proverb that says, "The forest shapes the tree, the ecosystem shapes the person." And here, clearly, your interest in the two beautiful women shaped your whole path there. What course did you study at college?
I started studying international finance and marketing. Made sense for the University of Miami. And in that first semester, now for a person who got such bad grades in high school, I can't believe I would say this. I'm like, it was just too easy. So I
High
went to
school
the
was too
community
easy, or
college.
high school was too easy, or college was too easy.
Getting B's, C's, and D's, high school was definitely not too easy for me, or at least I had no idea. But in college, that first semester was very easy. And so
Mhm.
I went to the guidance counselor and said, what is the most difficult course of instruction I could take in the business school?
Wow.
Apparently, the business school did a relationship with the industrial engineering school, and they created a program called it's a Bachelor of Science in Stochastic and Deterministic Models of Operational Research.
My
So let
goodness.
me let me English that. I was taught how to basically model people and systems and improve them.
Ah.
And it turns out that I'm one of those people who could say, and I didn't do it because of that, but I've been using that my entire life.
Okay. Okay. Well, interestingly, you say that because in terms of modeling and systems, one of the areas I've been immersed in a lot since the mid 80s is the area of NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And of course, modeling and systems, and in many ways, a systematic approach to modeling and then looking for excellence and continuous improvement. That's essentially a core driver of all of the coaching I've done. So, have you had any exposure to that or understanding of that in any way?
Oh, I understand NLP real well. And for any person who happens to be particularly good at sales and people who train sales like you do, I would be surprised if NLP wasn't one of the top tools that you used.
Yes, it should be. Well, it should be, as you say. So how did that study then lead into what you then did career-wise, which of course then led to you
Yeah.
setting up all these businesses?
So serendipity was I went to Europe in between my undergrad and I was going to go to grad school and I was already accepted to get the MBA, 1 year MBA at University of Miami during the summertime. Now, going back, this is a long time ago. This was before cell phones. And so
Yeah.
during the summertime, I got accepted into the College of William and Mary with a half tuition fellowship. But I guess my mom thought that she didn't need to tell me this. So when I got home, I actually learned that. And then I went to visit the College of William and Mary, which is in Williamsburg, Virginia, on
Hmm.
my way to the University of Miami. The College
Hmm.
of William and Mary is absolutely beautiful.
Is it? Yeah.
So I kept driving. I checked into the dorms at University of Miami, and I said, well, maybe I should call the dean, see if the fellowship is still there. So I called up the dean, and the dean said, "Hey, give me a minute." Got him on the phone. He said, "Give me a minute. I'll get back to you in a second." He goes, "Mitchell, not only is the half tuition fellowship still there, but if you want to come to our school, we will make it a full tuition fellowship."
Wow.
I'm like, huh, that sounds really good. And by the way, there's never if you don't ask, you'll never receive. And I said, well, your school is 2 years long, and I already am accepted and checked into the dorm at the University of Miami, which is only 1 year long. Can you do anything about that? And he says, well, I'll take a semester off.
Wow.
And so that's how I ended up at the College of William and Mary. I will tell you one thing. My first semester, um, I was in classes with both first years, that was okay, and second years. Now, one of the things that you're taught in the MBA program, in the undergrad, there is always an answer in the back of the book. Whether it's
Hmm.
physically there somewhere else, it's always easy to figure out. You're taught in MBA school that there is no answer. You just need to justify it. And so, that first semester when I was in classes with second years, I kind of probably pissed people. I got all A's because I wanted to, but I probably pissed people off. Um, what ended up happening there is my last semester, I took an independent study by the finance professor, and he had a particular model he wanted to prove would be superior for stock investing. And one night, I think it was 2 or 3 in the morning, I was using, I can't remember, it was SPSS or SAS. I actually proved his model to be right. Dropped the research off at his desk. Stopped back in 2 weeks later. I was starting to write the article because I wanted to be published because I proved this thing to work. And I said, hey, would you mind just co-authoring this with me? The article's mostly done. His response is, yes, I do. We're not going to
Hmm.
publish an article. Like, boom, like everything dropped to the ground. He goes, I used your research to get me a job at Colonial Mutual Fund in Boston, and you're coming with me. So that's
Wow.
actually how I made my way to Boston was it just, once again, serendipity led the way. Um, one of the problems, Lee, he was hedonistic and narcissistic. Um, and he and my parents ended up getting divorced when I was 9. So it turns out he was like my first official male mentor. And he
Hmm.
taught me all of these bad rules in life. So I left him after a year. In retrospect, I could tell you that he was physically with me or virtually with me for 37 because it took me that long to get rid of all the stuff that I learned.
Yeah.
So I left there after a year, went to State Street Bank, was a senior systems officer, and about 3 years into being in Boston, I met a woman on a bus stop. And to cut a long story short, um, about 3 days after I met her, she had accepted a job in California, but we started dating and we dated for 2 months and then she moved. Turned out she was moving right by where my parents ended up moving, and I wanted to live with them out in California. Silicon Valley. California's pretty big. She's
Yes.
moving to California, and it turns out that she was moving 15 minutes away from my parents.
Right. That's the universe or God or whatever you call it at that point.
So
Yeah.
6 months after that, I moved to Silicon Valley. Now, so that's how I got here. And then what ended up happening is I got a job at a startup. Now, if you're not from Silicon Valley, you just assume that the streets are paved with gold and every startup is successful.
Hmm.
That is far from the truth.
Hmm.
So that first company I went to, they ran out of money after the first year. And when I went to my folks and said, what should I do? What's next? And they gave me great advice. They said, why don't you go to a big company? Then you could actually poke around, learn processes and skills, figure out what you liked doing. And that's how I got to Sun Microsystems. So that sort of brings you up to kind of where we are.
Well,
There's
well,
still
straight away,
there's some current stuff, but
yeah.
things are
Well, it was very clearly women. You meeting women have had a major impact on your path. Everything from the women taking you to the library to meeting the woman at the bus stop, and you then coming to California. So that's it.
and let me throw my mom into that too.
Your
She's been
mum
a
as well. Yeah,
really important voice and impact in my life. So yeah, yeah.
fantastic,
By the way,
fantastic.
thank you for that observation because I don't think I've had anyone tie the women thread together.
Yeah, well, one, I'm looking for patterns. I mean, as you well know, a phone has an internal operating system. A human being has an internal operating system. And from an NLP point of view, of course, we're talking about conditioning and programming. And so I'm interested in, and NLP talks about patterns. What are some of the patterns, both empowering patterns in our life and disempowering patterns in our life? But I want to talk now about these props that you've got behind you. You've got some cash registers up the back there, and then you've got some guy on a horse, Wild Bill Hickok or somebody. So people are going to be asking, what the hell are those things? So can you just at least relieve us of our loop? What's who's the horseman there?
All right, absolutely. Now, by the way, I am currently in the midst of getting a PhD. Let's not drop off without me
Oh,
talking
good.
about
Fantastic.
that.
In what area? In what area?
It's in transformational leadership. And
Fantastic.
specifically, what I'm doing, since you like patterns and operating systems, I am creating an operating system in which businesses can run where they don't focus solely on one stakeholder group, investors, but focus on the ecosystem of stakeholders. So five different stakeholder groups. We'll come back to that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So just
So
now relieve me of those props you've got behind you. They obviously mean something to you.
Wait, this way. So I got two cash registers, but one of the primary cash register, something I picked up about 15 years ago. And what I love about it is when you look at the keyboard,
Hmm.
or the keys you could type in, the largest denomination is $5.
Hmm.
The smallest is a penny.
Yeah.
And so what happens, it's a 1907 National Cash Register. And so if you're curious, you could just go
NCR. Yeah.
GPT and say, hey, what things could you buy, for a penny or
Yes.
$5 in 1907? And, for a nickel, you could get a loaf of bread, a six pack of beer, a shave and a haircut. $5
Mm.
was like a millionaire, right? So,
Mm. Mm.
so it's interesting because we get, when people ask about that, we get into interesting conversations about how life has changed and how you can afford things or not afford things over time. The statue behind me is of Frederick Remington. If you look inside the Oval Office, pictures of the Oval Office of the White House, they also have that, although that's not why I got it.
Mm.
In 1996, actually 1995, 95, 96. Now I'm a little iffy on that. A guy by the name of Andreessen invented Mosaic. Mosaic was the tool that allowed us to see how the internet is going to work.
Right. Wow.
And so in 1996, and I'm an early adopter, I was using Word, a Microsoft Word, to program HTML. And I was doing something before. Now it's in vogue that you drop ship products, but it was
Yes.
not in vogue in 1996.
Mm.
Well, I actually had a bronze statue store on the internet. And so
Ah.
it kind of simple. I had a foundry that I did work with. I would mark up their prices by 5x and drop ship the product. And one day I said, I gotta be a customer of my own store. So that's why that's back there.
Wow. 5x. I like that. I like that. Which makes me come back. So you say your father, mother and father parted when you were 9. So in terms of male role models or being exposed to business people or sales or anything around that, I mean, because not everybody turns into a parallel entrepreneur. So, where did you get your business influence? Let's say before the age of 20, or even the age of 15, or even 10.
Yeah, I don't think I did.
Mm, mm. You
I don't
just,
my youth did not have any business any business professionals that would we grew up in. My mom was a school teacher with three kids. We were under the
yeah,
poverty line in
yeah,
terms of income. And But mom was a good woman, and she left us with a fundamental feeling. You could be and do whatever you want,
Yeah. So that was
right?
a
And we
core
had
belief that she put in there.
and we had no understanding that we were poor. I mean, we just mom did a great job. Like we had macaroni and cheese on Monday nights and hot dogs on Tuesday night and sloppy Joe on Wednesday, like a kid's dream. I didn't know that she was doing that because that's what she could afford.
Yep. Yep. Wow. How about that? So let's go to today. I'm going to go to your website. Let's talk about what you're doing today. And as you say, let's talk about this transformational leadership. But here we go. Executive abundance through clarity and credibility. And I see all the top 10 thought leader, ecosystems, leadership, Marshall Goldsmith. Explain to me what all this means. And maybe I know somewhere in there, I'm sure you talk about your clients, but how did you get to this? And tell me a bit about this website.
So, thank you. Um, what uh, what happened when I interviewed 500 thought leaders on credibility is I created a really good definition of what credibility is.
Mm-hmm.
Credibility is the quality in which you're trusted, known, and liked, and there are 10 values associated with that. And then I did a TEDx that had a 500,000 views, um,
Fantastic.
and it's called "We Are Losing Our Humanity." I'm tired of watching it happen.
Ah,
When I was doing the interviews, I ended up unlocking a superpower. And my
in,
superpower
in
is
yourself or in other people or both?
in myself to allow other people to unlock their superpower.
Okay, I like it. Unlock your superpower. Hmm.
So, what I can do, Lee, is I could sit with any company or any human and help them articulate where they are executing on their purpose in less than 10 words.
Mm.
So, that's what I call clarity. So, the problem I had, and you'll appreciate this as a salesperson, is because I spent a year interviewing people on credibility, I thought I needed to create a credibility business.
Hmm.
Now, once again, it was a nice six-figure business. I'm going to say, and it was not a change the world business. So I then thought, hey, what do I'm really good? I'm good at clarity. So then I
Hmm.
created a clarity certification program, and I did that for a year. And then about a year ago, I had a really good friend of mine slap me in the face. Not figuratively, but
As
literally,
only good friends can.
or the other
Yes.
way. I think I might have got that wrong. But anyhow, he didn't actually slap me, but he did it virtually. He goes, Mitchell, I know every living marketing legend alive today, and there's nobody that does clarity the way you do.
Yeah.
Now tell me how many people don't have it. Lee, when I was doing the research, what I unraveled was that 98% of companies and individuals do not have clarity.
Hmm.
98%.
Hmm.
So first, we get on the call together. My head's going like this, you know, best in the world. That's really cool. He goes, I'm going to now tell you something you're not going to like. And I couldn't imagine what it was, but I want you to imagine a balloon and taking a pin and putting it in the balloon because in 3 sentences, he did exactly that to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
He goes, Mitchell, at first he tried to soften the blow. This is just marketing speak.
Hmm.
Okay. He goes, you're world class at something that 98% of your audience doesn't have. Now, they don't have it because they either think they have it and they don't, or they don't think they need it. Either way, that number sucks.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Now, the thing is, he was not wrong.
Hmm.
It was exactly the right thing to say.
Hmm.
And what I recognized, first thing he did, he said, let me throw you a hook. Like, great. He goes, what can you do for me this minute that'll put money in my pocket tomorrow? First words out of my mouth, executive presence. I had been part of the Marshall Goldsmith thing. I had been part of LinkedIn since before LinkedIn was making money. Matter of fact, I was paid by two of the five founders to publish and write LinkedIn's first book. Um, and so executive presence, which I then morphed into executive abundance. But the following morning is when I woke up with my second gift. And this is the one I think you'll really appreciate. I've known this my whole life. I've only been practicing it for a year. sell them what they want,
mm,
deliver what they need.
mm, mm,
Because when I woke up that morning, I recognized that I spent
mm,
5.5 years selling people and working on what they need. People
mm,
need clarity and credibility, but
mm.
that's not what they want.
No.
So they want. So in the executive abundance space, or it's typically my audience is CEOs of fast-growing companies. So I say Inc. 5,000 CEOs leading the future with executive abundance. The goal when I say that 9 words is somebody says, "Hey Mitchell, what's executive abundance?" And I could go and talk about that. The second thing I did is I ended up buying a LinkedIn agency
Oh yeah.
because it gave me the opportunity to do really quick, rapid experimentation. And the audience I serve there and who I really add value to, business owners tired of slimy LinkedIn sales tactics.
You get hit with them every day, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. So what I do is, it's a short answer on that. I'll do a little bit of the tell me more is, hey, listen, if you're in business and you are selling to other businesses, there is one game in the town. That game is LinkedIn. And if you don't really work hard, you're going to get caught up in that slimy thing. I've got an approach, a methodology, a teamwork, an opportunity, and a tool that will allow you to not to focus on sliminess, but to focus on the 5% of LinkedIn capability that'll bring 80% of value.
Fantastic.
And
That's a
the cool part there, it's also much less expensive than my executive coaching, so it's easier for customer acquisition.
wow, wow, mate. And not only that, I can tell you coming back to clarity. You've mastered those words to describe that and have a hook in that last piece. That last thing you said there about I can in terms of the LinkedIn offer. Can would like to say that again because I'm sure that's not the first time you've said it.
Oh, I don't think I could ever say it the same way.
Exactly right. Yeah. That okay,
But the
but in terms of as you say that the 5% that gives you the
no,
90%
the
or
five
words to that
percent that
effect.
gives 80% of value. Basically, what will happen is I'll say it again. I create something called a CPOP, your customer point of possibilities.
Okay. Wow.
And the CPOP associated with the LinkedIn agency,
Mm.
business owners tired of slimy LinkedIn sales tactics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because think of that as simply the playground I play in. Now, on
Mm.
the executive coaching side, it's fast growing CEOs leading the future with executive abundance. So let me
Yes.
tell you what that means. When I sat on the board of a public firm, I forgot to mention that before, but when I sat on the board of a public firm, what ended up happening is we focused on primarily stakeholders. I mean, and the stakeholders we focused on were investors. But if you take, when I went to business school, guess what I was taught? How important customer service is. But that's not how companies act in terms of how they fund. How
Mm.
important employees are, but take a look at the Gallup polls on how much customer disengagement there is. So executive abundance is bringing abundance to five stakeholder groups. The five are the CEO
Mm.
and themselves, that's first.
Mm.
Second is the internal operating system of the company of their employees. So you need to empower them so
Mm.
that they can actually be successful. If you actually add value to the employees, guess what? They're going to add value to the customers.
Yes.
You add value to the customers, the third stakeholder group, they will add value to the investors. And of course, we do all of that within the construct of a community, both
Yeah.
virtual and physical.
Yeah.
So the reason I ended up deciding to get the PhD, so I'm in a PhD program. I needed to add or wanted to add academic rigor around
Mm.
executive abundance.
Mm.
And so I'm actually in this program and it's amazing. And it looks like, assuming I actually do things the way I'm supposed to,
Yes.
that I will do my defense for my dissertation in April, and then I'll publish on May 7th. So the way I'm doing the dissertation, it's a capstone versus a research dissertation. What that means is I still have research I'm doing. There are typically 5 chapters in a dissertation. However, the type of research I'm doing is all the research I've already done. So what I'm delivering, the capstone piece of it, is a book, 2 chatbots, and education, so online courses. And so on May 7th is when I released my 66th book. It's called Executive Abundance.
Mm.
And it's the blueprint on how to go about deploying the concept of executive abundance. The academic rigor is in the dissertation. And then the two chatbots, one is focused on how to create your own CPOP so that people can do it themselves without Mitchell being in the room. And then a credibility tool or credibility engine so that it's called the credibility compass so that they can actually um, see and live within the construct of credibility. Yeah, it's been a
Wow.
fun journey. There's a lot of stuff going on.
A fun journey. I like the way, just from linguistically, you use the word fun a lot. It's that what fun on the board, fun in business. But I note also here, elevate your referral game, as you say, the LinkedIn component there. And then as I went down the bottom of the site, and it was talking about accountability Mondays. Um, and obviously here become a certified clarity specialist. So from a business point of view, can we talk about one, the accountability Mondays, because that's obviously a way of getting involved with you. Then here, this whole I want clarity. So there's a lot of ways to get involved. Let's just talk about the accountability Monday first before we talk about referrals.
Oh, sure. The what I when I create the first thing I did when I created the Credibility Nation is I created products. So it was a Credibility Nation community, and one of the components of the community was something I call Accountability Mondays. So
Mm-hmm.
at Monday at 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. Pacific, it's 12:30 noon East Coast time. It's absolutely okay for Europe. It's in the evening. It's not great for Australia. But we basically we get together for a half hour and it's self-accountability. And what what I thought would happen is that would be the most important. When I created a 400 person community, I figured we'd get 200 to 300 people every session, and
Mm-hmm.
we ended up with 10. And it's interesting because accountability is something that's really important. And what I'm
Yes.
going to say is self-accountability. Our ego protects us and allows us to think we're accountable, and
Mm.
we kind of lie to ourselves and
Sure.
find good excuses why we're not. So I still keep accountability Mondays, and it's just an opportunity, and you're welcome anytime. It's just not a good time for you. Um,
Yes. No. No.
but coming in, it's very simple. Um, People get to share their CPOP and tell me more, right? So it's a reinforcement thing. And they say, hey, this is what I've got going on this week. This is what I was going to do last week that I either hit or miss. This is what I'm focused on this week.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
just an opportunity for people to publicly state to a group of others, this is what I've got going on. You
You're
know,
right.
personal accountability.
Well, I know when I went in there, I think there's something about you're saying there's a monthly fee, a monthly fee. So you're saying 400 people are paying $20 a month, but only 10 roll up.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Wow, crazy, crazy indeed. But as you came back to that point before, you said sell them what they want, but give them what they need. And they don't necessarily say I want accountability. As you say, they want the results. Well, as one of my marketing mentors at one stage said, look, we talk about give a man a fish, feed them for one day, teach them to fish. He said, what they really want is you to catch the fish, cut it up, and put it on a plate for them, and ideally spoon feed them as well. As much as they say, no, 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 I want to learn how to catch the fish. So here, I don't go, I want accountability. Oh, actually, I don't, I don't, I just want you to do it for me, ideally. Yeah. It's funny about that, isn't it?
You're spot on. So it's just a remnant of the time that I spent in credibility that I'm still holding on to.
Yeah.
Whether or
Yeah.
not I should is a different
Yeah, right.
question.
No, 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 exactly. Okay, so well, let's go back then to some of the whether it be the executive coaching or the sort of where is the bulk of your business now, and where do you want it to be moving forward?
There's really financially, it's in the executive coaching
Yeah,
space.
right, right.
Um,
Okay.
in terms of where it's sort of an 80-20 between executive coaching and the LinkedIn business.
Yeah, great,
Um,
great.
on the
So tell me
executive,
about what does a executive coaching journey look like? As you say, it's obviously you say 10 grand a month or $100,000. So it's a significant commitment, and the type of people that you're going to be working with clearly are willing to invest in themselves. So how do you discover these people, or how do you attract these people? Um, and what does it look like when they're being coached by you? You talk to them daily, weekly, monthly. What happens? What's the process?
two great questions. Okay. First one, a lot of true business comes from referral,
Yes.
right? And that's always the most important thing. What I also do is I'm actually using the same tool that I teach others on the LinkedIn work. I'm
Yep.
still using that tool to continually scout out for new referral partners and new prospects,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
that's the outreach.
Yeah. Fantastic.
In terms of what we do now, I like the numbers there in terms of what they say. Typically and that's in corporate, typically companies that are at the 100 million plus range.
Yes.
For smaller companies, I'm typically 3, 5, or 7K a month.
Yeah. Right.
And what it ranges between, it's really funny. The people who could afford me the most have the least amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's typically twice a month that I meet. Sometimes with some of my clients, it's just once a month.
Mm.
And what often happens when there's a good relationship between the coach and the coachee is, and one of the things I do, and I could tell you do the same thing, Lee. I have a series of frameworks.
Yeah.
What happens is after you've been with me for a little bit, the right framework comes out at the right time, and what it turns out to be is shorthand. And it's shorthand for a conversation that is very easy for the person to actually see themselves. Because at the end of the day, let's be clear, I can't change anybody. That's not my job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What I can do, though, is I can give you a framework to see the world in such a way that you recognize that you're going to need to change to achieve the goals you really want to.
Mm.
So what happens at first? Step one always comes with me helping somebody get their CPOP. Now, sometimes if somebody is really open and really capable, I could feel it's in your heart where you are executing on your purpose in less than 10 words.
Yeah.
I could tell in that exercise where that's really yours or that's full of marketing cookie cutter bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to call you out on it right away, although sometimes I do.
Mm-hmm.
But we will work on clearing that over time. And depending on how that first conversation goes, I can tell how quickly people are going to need me or how long we're going to take. For some people, it's important that I meet once a week.
Yes.
It's never daily.
Yes.
For others, it's biweekly, and I've got a bunch of clients I just meet with once a month.
Sure. When you meet, it's a Zoom or Teams call for an hour, 2 hours a day. How long?
Typically, it's a 1 hour meeting.
Yep. Yep. That does it.
There are times, so what happens is for the individuals, that's all that's needed.
Yeah.
When we're doing a team exercise, that's something different. I'll come in for a half day or a day.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And again, you'll
and
come into their office, or you'll do a Zoom call, or it could depends on where they're located.
Typically, it's better to come into the office.
Yes.
When you're one-on-one, Um, I think for someone like you who's a NLP aficionado, you could see patterns and you could feel energy. And it doesn't matter if you're in person or you're on Zoom.
Mm.
And I know I can.
Mm.
So one-on-one, not a problem. But when you're with a team, what needs to happen is you need to feel the flow and the energy of the team, and you can't do that on Zoom.
No, I agree.
So what often happens is that would be hey, let me come in for a half day, or if it's far enough out, let me just come in for a day.
Mm.
And then we'll do follow-up coaching calls with the executive team and then the CEO themselves.
Yep. Yep.
No,
Yep.
let me give you I'll give you a thought of what I just did. So this is really interesting. And I have to be careful never to violate never to not to violate what I'm doing with my dissertation because it can't be publicly available. But
Sure.
what's interesting is for the coursework for executive abundance, when I really sat down hard and focused on it, I'm creating two courses essentially. One is for the CEO and the second is for the C-suite. The CEO course is 10 minutes long, right?
Mm.
Because you don't get a lot more time with the CEO. And I don't need to educate. CEOs are smart.
Sure.
What they really need is they need to be able to reinforce a framework. And so that's all that's doing. It's reinforcing the framework so they could be the coach to their team,
Mm.
to the C-suite,
Mm.
so that the C-suite, which by the way, their course is only 50 minutes long, right? Because
Short
once
and
again,
sharp.
we don't spend a lot of time in courses. On the other hand, you want to go back to that reference menu. That's because you asked me, hey, can you repeat that? I can't, but
Mm.
when you look at the recording, you know, and so the courses are focused on really reinforcing a framework or tool set, nomenclature, and approach, so that when you get into real life, you really do apply techniques like, either Myers-Briggs. There's so many other ones, but NLP is my
Sure.
one of my favorites. And it's important to understand what's the best way to put this? When you get into panic situations, when you get into real crisis mode, that you're still acting with an abundant mindset. And that's normally when people jump into scarcity.
Sure, sure. Well, let's talk about that just for a second, because it's certainly one of my questions I like to talk to people about, um, is that whole understanding of scarcity and fear versus abundance mindset. So, where obviously you've used it in your language there. So, how do you bring that in your teaching or even in your coaching, and how important do you think it is? To bring that into people's consciousness? Because I mean, again, we don't learn that in primary school or high school or college. It's learnt outside of those traditional structures. Yet clearly, as a leader or an entrepreneur or creator, an abundance mindset is critical versus fear. So, give me what you talk to people about in regard to scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset.
I want to give you something that's very practical in terms of response. So let's talk about we'll make it a generic CEO, not to give you a name.
Sure.
And that person ends up with CPOP. It ends up with what it is they're doing that, and once again, like any company, happy to do this with you anytime, any company, I can give you less than 10 words.
Yep.
Now, when you're living in that world and the person understands that, the first question you're going to ask is, hey, you're going to do this all yourself, or you're going to let other people, you're going to delegate?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to delegate. Great. Okay. Are they going to do work for you because you have the title, or are they going to do work for you because you've empowered them to be successful at what they do?
Mm.
Now, by the way, there are people who are not so smart who's going to say, "Oh, I got the title." There are other
Mm. Mm.
people who feel that are not going to say that, right? And so that's an interesting conversation when you get to unlock that. Because at the end of the day, during that conversation, we'll talk about, well, tell me about people who have been working for you in the past that you loved but left, or people you didn't like or you kicked out and they didn't work. Tell me why. And what I'm doing in that conversation is listening to speech, watching reaction, and trying to figure out where they have either deployed scarcity or deployed
Mm.
abundance,
Mm. Mm.
right? Because once you could get an example, you put a stake in the ground,
Mm. Mm.
and then you give that stake a name,
Mm. Mm.
and then you can come back to it anytime.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And just like the great comedians, if you ever listen to a great comedian, they'll tell a joke, they'll put a stake in the ground. They'll tell another joke, it's completely outside, they'll put another stake in the
Sure.
ground. Tell a
Sure.
third joke. And then when they put all three stakes together that were, it's like, oh my God, it's so funny.
Mm.
Well,
Mm.
that's actually how you coach as well,
Mm. 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 Mm.
right? You
Nice.
do it in
Nice.
such a way where people get it. So the short answer is once you have at least one stake in the ground, once I have at least one stake in the ground, and they have a very specific tactical issue, then we could take a look at that issue in relation to their CPOP and in relation to the stake in the ground. And then we could say, okay, so what are you doing here? Are you doing scarcity or are you doing abundance? And I may or may not use those words,
Mm.
right? Because sometimes for some people, those words have hidden meanings,
Sure.
right? So the real answer is, hey, do you want to be there looking over this person's shoulder and helping them be successful? Or do you want to empower them to be successful? Because guess what? They've got 5,000 people working for them, and this person needs to be successful.
Yes, yes,
The
yes.
theoretical answer is obvious. The tactical answer of what they do to deliver that theory is not always so obvious.
Sure, sure. You're reminding me of a quote of Jack Welch. What I've done in the last 6 months, Mitchell, is one of the young guys in our business networking group put me on to how we can create music and songs using AI. So I've actually created a whole pile of teaching songs around anything that people have said. Or so there's one on abundance mentality. There's one, certainly a number
Oh,
on
fun.
on leadership. I'll send you a couple of them. Certainly, my wife got me involved in things Jung Pueblo and love and relationships. So there's a whole lot about love is a living thing, and even sales and objection handling and marketing and building long-term relationships with customers. So there's a lot of teaching songs in there. So certainly one of them is on abundance, but one of them on leadership. I wanted to do one that included some quotes from Jack Welch. And one of the things, one of my podcasts a year or so ago was with a guy who worked closely with Jack Welch in the GE finance area, and he talked about Welsh's ease around energy, energize, execution, having the edge, and certainly passion. And he talks about empowering, as in, your job as a leader is to build the next generation of leaders. So this, as you say, the scarcity leader is like, no, I've got to control the power and not give it away. The abundance leader says, I literally want to give as much power as possible away so that I'm building up that next generation, and the place can run better without me. But that takes a real different non-scarcity, non-fear based mindset, doesn't it?
It is, it's not always easy because it's not how we've been taught. It's not how we've been raised.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the answer is it's magic when it
Yes,
happens.
yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So, looking at the two books behind you, Credibility Nation, mind you, you didn't use a lot of creativity in the cover of that book, I gather. I mean, there's no picture of you. There's no happy, smiling faces. There's no graphs of. There's not even a nation. There's not even a globe. So I don't know there may be a reason for that. But as you say, being inspired by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, Tony Robbins years ago had edited up an interview that he'd got from somewhere and pretended that he'd done the interview with Napoleon Hill. And Hill tells the story of going to meet Andrew Carnegie as a law student doing journalism as a way of paying his way through college. And Carnegie saying to him, well, if you're serious about success, I'll introduce you to all the successful people I know. And Carnegie saying, and being a Scotsman, he's gone, if you learn this, you can make a fortune out of it. So I'm not going to pay you. And you've got like a day or 24 hours or whatever to make the decision. And Napoleon Hill's gone, my God, there I was, I had this fantastic opportunity. I'm not sure if you've heard that interview, but it's to hear it from Napoleon Hill's mouth, his own lips, of how it came about. And he talks about going and meeting with Henry Ford for the first time, and this skinny little guy in greasy overalls, and he's going, what, Carnegie's serious? This guy doesn't look like he's going to make money at all, So there's so many wonderful stories, hearing it from Napoleon Hill himself. And then recently, Tim Ferriss had done Tools of Titans, and I've forgotten what the other one was. And the interesting one, needless to say, some of the patterns in both books are quite similar in terms of goal setting and team and mastermind, and passion and so on. But the one that interested me most with Tim Ferriss, that of course Hill didn't talk about it in those days, but he probably did talk about prayer and universe. But Tim Ferriss said 80% or more of the people who were the high performers that he had put into his books had a morning practice, usually a morning meditation practice. And so I just wonder, what are some of, if you look back at Think and Grow Rich and whatever Ferriss has done, what were some of those common patterns in Credibility Nation that jumped out at you or surprised you in terms of either daily practices, thought processes, behaviors, mindsets? What jumped out for you in terms of that Credibility Nation study?
So Credibility Nation did something different. So let me
Mm-hmm.
share it with you. What we did is we unlocked the definition of credibility.
Right. Yep.
So if you take a look, credibility is not the quality in which one is trusted, which is sometimes what's still in the dictionary. It's the quality in
Mm-hmm.
which one is trusted, known, and liked.
Yes.
And if you look at those 10 values, it becomes really easy if you want to be credible and inspire others. I look at this as a operating system for humanity. And if you
Right.
look at all those, I think what stood out after the fact, there are two values that you could follow to be likable. One is showing respect. I call, coming early, coming prepared, coming with your heart, showing respect,
Yeah.
sharing your stage. You're doing that now. I affectionately call that sharing cred dust,
Yes.
sharing the ideas, thoughts, and actions of others, sharing your stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only value that's listed twice is integrity.
Nice.
And what I want to do is explain something. This is one of those classic NLP things, and I'd be curious how you explain it. You're talking to somebody, and all of a sudden the hair in the back of your neck sticks up, like
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong. It's that fear or flight
Oh,
instinct happens.
right. Well, in Australia, we call it the bullshit meter.
The bullshit meter.
The
So
bullshit
that
meter. And as you say, NLP talk about congruence. Is the person congruent? And of course, if they're incongruent, again, NLP talks about state is contagious. Their incongruous state transfers to you, and you go, why am I feeling this way around this person? So that'd be
exactly.
one of the
That's
ways I
that's
explain it.
that's what I was going to tell you is to put it in the words of credibility, their external integrity, who they say they are, and their
Mm,
internal integrity, as you get to
mm,
know them,
mm,
is incongruous.
mm,
And
mm,
when that
mm,
happens, that the hair in the back of your neck stick up. So so
mm,
I'm so I'm glad it transfers over well. That was
mm.
an interesting learning for me. The other thing was really easy as a practice. When a board sends me a CEO that they would like me to coach,
Mm.
first thing I do is I see whether or not they're coachable. I could tell that in the first session.
Yes.
They're not coachable. I'm going to say no.
Yes, well, you're absolutely right. I don't know how long it took me to learn that, but I literally ask them and watch their eyeballs move and say, "Are you coachable?" And of course, it's interesting at times that one, their eyeballs move like, "What shit? No one's ever asked me that." And I've literally had people go, "I'm not so sure." Go, "Whoa, that is a problem."
By the way, that's a good one. I'll give you another one.
Yep.
I often will find something that they did wrong,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's really small.
Yes.
How they react when I point that out to them
Oh, yes.
is
Yes.
absolutely going to
Yes.
let me know if they're coachable or not.
Yes, how open they are to feedback. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Which coming back to that, you reminded me of Jim Collins's book Good to Great, where he talks about level five leaders, where he talks about the level five leader um, in terms of integrity and systems and discipline, but the humility factor. You talk about likability there, which again. I don't know if you know Robert Cialdini. We like Cialdini's work in terms of levers of
I
influence,
do as well. Yeah, yeah.
and and that whole piece of consistency and commitment. You know, the do they when they say it, do they do it? In fact, Jack Welch had a thing he called see-do ratio. A say-do ratio. Say-do ratio. When you do you have a high say-do rate? That is, if you say you're going to do it, do you do it? Or do you have a low say-do ratio? You say it and then you don't do it. Now, I love that because, of course, it brings into the GE vernacular and language and mindset, mate. We're watching that. If you say it, you better do it because execution's the core value anyway. But it's the power of words, and we actually call it the fruit bowl, or setting the context that you bring it into people's consciousness. You know, as you say, because if you have a conversation around integrity, people can have all sorts of definitions. But certainly, again, one of the models we use is Lululemon. Chip Wilson for Lululemon, talking about integrity, which I think he got it from the Werner Erhard Landmark Forum program. Of again, integrity means if you say you're going to do it, you do it. So, I mean, I love your model's fantastic there, particularly as a way of servant leadership, which again, from a hierarchical autocratic point of view, leaders I think there was a guy that wrote a book on servant leadership years ago. One of my business partners at the time introduced me to, which I can't remember the guy's name now, but it's a wonderful concept of, as you say, as a leader. And I mean, we also used the Jan Carlson book, essay. What was it called? I've forgotten what it was called now. But he literally inverted the pyramid to say, no, the purpose of the leadership is to support the front line, as distinct from it roll down from the top and just dump whatever crap is coming out of the board or head office
That's,
on the
but Lee,
front line.
that's getting back to the having a good life. The if you're in a position where you're managing others, are you giving them the opportunity to have the best life they could have? Right?
Yes.
Are you empowering them with the tools? Like the whip is not the right tool.
Mm,
The What's really important is clarity, credibility, and empowerment
yeah.
to
Yeah.
actually do it and then consistently do that on a day in, day out basis.
Mm,
And if you can have that roll across the organization, up and down, right? All of a sudden you're creating a world where, and this is what executive abundance is. If you can think about the internal operating system of the CEO and their staff, it's their health, it's their family.
mm,
If that's shot, that's going to spill over.
mm,
What's the
mm,
internal operating system of the company? It's the employees. If you can empower the employees to be super successful
mm.
at not just at work, but at home, whatever that might
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
right? And it's not
Yes.
just about money. Maybe it is getting the 4-day work week. Maybe it is having times where it's a four-hour work week, to borrow a Tim Ferriss thing,
Yes.
right? And it just depends. And if you could do that, you could then really add value to the customer base.
Absolutely. Well, as I mean, Branson has said this. People say customers come first, but he goes, no, no, you can't have customers coming first and employees coming third, fourth, or fifth, and expect people who know they're not being treated well to give great service. He said employees need to come first so that then they have the energy or the love or the passion or the caring to. We've literally had it with our national carrier here in Australia, Qantas. People would say the standard of service at Qantas has gone down over the years, no matter what they might say. And if you speak then to people who used to work at Qantas and say how over the years the care for the staff has dropped off incredibly, and then that then shows at the front line. So you can't keep beating them and cutting costs and not training them and not treating them as superstars, and then go out and give 5-star or 6-star service. So many of my friends who have worked at Qantas go, it starts with, and they're just a great example. It starts with the care and the treatment and the love. Coming back to then Southwest Airlines in the States, it was a great example. Herb Callagher, I think, my good friend Grant, who done a lot of work with in America in those areas. Callagher knew the names of the employees. People knew that he knew names of their dogs, or he literally cared about them, versus in many companies, well, I can tell you, one of the guys who'd done some work at Qantas, he said at one stage, the manager of the baggage handling had never actually been out to the baggage handling area, and certainly
Ah, ah.
none of the
Yeah,
other managers.
that hurts me to listen to that.
Yeah, yeah. And when this guy literally went out and worked with the guys throwing bags, over time and a range of the other ideas and improvements, talk about servant leadership. Uh, they got this guy to come from Perth because the Perth airport was going so well. And in the lead up to the 2000 Olympics, they knew that Sydney airport was going to be, unbelievably busy with jumbo jets of passengers and television crews and so on, and they knew it had to improve its performance. And so he went in there and worked in a collaborative servant leadership way with the baggage handling teams, and the airport went off like clockwork. But only again because of all the things that you talk about there in terms of caring and servant leadership and putting employees first. So let's go to this other book there, Being Seen and Being Heard as a Thought Leader. Tell me some of the key points and lessons in that.
Absolutely. So it turns out that I've done two TEDx talks in my life.
Hmm.
And those both are the marketing books I use to market the TEDx talks.
Uh-huh.
So I actually did a TEDx talk on being seen and being heard as a thought leader. And it was the first thing I did. And it turns out it's got a lot of the fundamental concepts of the credibility that I showed you prior to uh, prior to prior to me doing the research. What I'll say though is I haven't read that book in a while, but I'll say something interesting happened in 2023.
Hmm.
2023 basically made thought leadership ubiquitous because nowadays it's anyone who wanted to be a thought leader in an area, at least from the perspective of writing stuff, just
Hmm.
needs to be able to ask the right prompts.
Hmm.
Think about you as a
As
songwriter,
in GPT chat prompts.
as GPT chat prompts. So think
Yeah.
of you as a songwriter, right?
Hmm.
And so the concept of being a thought leader is no longer valid from a really large perspective.
Hmm. Hmm.
What's really focused now is the specific group or the specific areas that you can actually touch. That's why the coming in person makes more and more sense,
Mm.
right? For those sort of things. What's not on the Mitchell Levy side, I have a 1 day offsite, which is which is a fun way. Fun is a good word. Thanks for pointing that
Mm.
out to me, by the way. Where we actually come up with the CPOP for the company, easy, but then the CPOPs for each of the executive team. Then
Hmm.
the interesting part is do they reinforce those CPOPs asynchronously? So what do their LinkedIn sites look like? How do they actually interact with people who are reaching them on LinkedIn? And so we actually spend the day um, talking about the importance of showing up because it's about touching your audience. It's about
Mm.
being successful at communicating the general gist, the feelings that you want to deliver everywhere, and that has to come from top and middle down as well as
Yeah.
across.
Right. Fantastic. So,
So
um,
did I answer? I don't think I answered your question, but I
that's
sort of
okay.
took a
No, I
roundabout.
think you're right. No, I mean the point there for me is, as you say, in the age of AI, it's a little easier to at least pretend you're a thought leader because you can access all that information. But that the intimacy factor, being face to face in a room with one person or a team, one, you can influence them more, but two, you have to show up with integrity. Otherwise, they can smell it on you. You can't fake it the way they might think you can, because there's a whole lot of people can put books together now using AI. But it's when you're in that room face to face as a human being, and the more you understand that person and help them get clear on their possibilities and their own clarity. In fact, one of my key mentors was Robert Kiyosaki. He had it was a program called Money and You. Marshall was his mentor,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I
and one
remember
of the
that.
principles in that program is clarity leads to power. If I can give you a clarity around goal, purpose, and you'd call it CPOP, now I'm empowering you, or we're empowering ourselves to go, "Well, that's who I am, that's where I should be heading." And so we use it like a laser beam. All of a sudden, it's the magnifying glass takes the rays of the sun and turns it into a laser beam. And I think to a certain extent, that's what you're talking about with CPOP is energy's there, but it's only when you give it focus can it really do good or make a difference. Does that
Well, I
make
like the
sense?
sun. I love the sun analogy because so think about it. You give it energy, you give it focus. You give it sun, you water it, you feed it, right?
Yeah,
I'll have to use that because
yeah,
it turns out that's really what I'm doing is
yeah.
helping either the individual or the corporation um, when it becomes easy when you have an operating system. And that's really what executive abundance is. It's an operating system.
Yeah.
If you have an operating system that you have a default answer, and the default answer happens to be in the best interest of your client, yourself, of doing the right thing.
Yes.
All of a sudden, it's a different world. It's a different
Yes.
life. Otherwise, it's the what I'm seeing for the larger thought leaders, the big influencers. It's. I think micro thought leadership is more of the way to do it, right? And having access to the thought leaders that are supporting you doing what you're doing and what they do, which are successful is they're empowering you with the frameworks for you to be successful.
Exactly, exactly. And coming back to, we don't learn it in kindergarten, primary school, college. You can go through your whole education and none of this be exposed to you. So often it means self-development or stepping outside of your own, or an enlightened leader saying, I want my people exposed to this
Oh,
because I know it's going to help them, empower them to literally perform at their best and lead their best lives.
Lee, I want to question you on that for a second
Hmm.
because yes, you're not taught how to empower a team, but in kindergarten, you're taught all these things.
All right. In kindergarten, you are taught them. Okay. My wife
I
is an early childhood. She'll probably say you're absolutely right, Mitchell. So tell me
we're
about
we're
that.
we're taught. There was a book in the U.S. that was very successful. I can't remember the author's name. Everything I needed to know in life, I've learned in kindergarten.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Right? Because your mom and your grandma, if they were good humans, they taught you how to make friends, how to show
Yes.
love, how to share your toys with others, how to share your lunch with others, right? How
Yes.
to show
Yeah.
respect,
Yeah.
and some odd reason what academic education has done is beat that out of us,
Mm,
right? So we're taught to unlearn what I think was part of what I'm helping people, really pull back in.
yeah.
If
Fantastic.
you do what's right, in
Funny
some
about that.
cases,
Yes.
and so that's the thing. If I'm going to direct anyone, because at the beginning, before we went live, you said, "Hey, should we go to Mitchell Levy?" I go, "Yes," and let me do an and. So this is for your show notes.
Mm.
The book called Executive Abundance can be seen at the executiveabundance.com website.
Oh, executiveabundance.com. Okay.
And if people sign up now, prior to it releasing on May 7th, I will do definitely special things for that audience.
Okay. I got it.
Not only so I would love you to buy pre-order the book. And I believe it's available in hardcover around the world as a pre-order. But we'll make sure we set special time. I will absolutely send you the PDF copy of the book when it's available. And we'll do some special things. The truth is, I don't know what it is, other than I want to make sure I agree to my commitment to do something special.
Fantastic. Well, here is executive abundance here. So that's fantastic. People can pre-order it and follow through on that. That's fantastic. But I like to ask people I'm interviewing in terms of leading their best life. We've talked conceptually about others, but in terms of you, Mitchell Levy, how do you look after yourself in terms of the time you wake up, what you do in terms of mind, body, spirit to be the person you are? What's your discipline? What are your daily practices?
So let me do the daily practices and then we'll do the mega practices.
Hmm.
Daily practices. One of my friends at some point in time talked to me about my chair of joy.
Hmm.
My
Chair of
chair of
joy.
joy, the
Mm.
chair of joy is the chair in your house that you just want to sit in. And her recommendation is in the morning when you wake up, take your cup of coffee, sit in your chair of joy for at least a minute or two. And
Hmm.
before you go to sleep at night, sit in your chair of joy and call it your chair of joy.
That's interesting.
After that, my routine is I work in bursts. So I set my calendar for typically Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday when I do a bunch of meetings. But I do chunks of time and then chunks of break.
Mm.
My meditation is interesting. So let's give the definition of meditation. Meditation is where you take your mind and you focus on one and only one thing so you could clear yourself of everything else.
Hmm.
Okay, so I combine my meditation with my 1 to 1.5 hour walking. And what I
Hmm.
do, I still play Pokemon Go. And my meditation is I walk for an hour and a half playing Pokemon Go
Wow.
because I'm focused on one and only one thing
Hmm.
and I know the rules, so it's kind of fun. And then I'm walking around, and as long as I keep an eye on the world, I do occasionally take client calls when I do that, but that's not meditating.
No,
When
no,
I'm
no.
purely meditating is all of a sudden I get it.
Yes.
I'm at the end. I've got a very healthy relationship with my wife, and on the mega picture, we take 4 to 5 weeks a year. We'll rent a house in typically in Europe, and we'll invite friends and family. So that's the time of the year where I swap from typically my life is taking care of self, clients first, family, and that switches to family and friends, then clients.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, the it's something really fascinating when you could say how many people have seen part of the world that they would have never seen otherwise, or they got their
Mm.
passport simply because we gave them a room and they needed all they had to do is get on the plane, fly over with their passport, and to show people part of the world and open up things for them that was different. My wife and I like doing that on the physical side. I love to do that as an executive coach. That always it's go back to the statement that I said to you. You and I seem very similar. We recognize patterns. We
Mm.
put a framework around the pattern, and then we allow other people to play in that framework when it makes sense.
Yeah.
And there's nothing cooler in the world. Um, I'll give you a great example, and this won't even be one of my friends in the 100 Coaches. She also is on her dissertation path. She asked me if I could be part of her study where I would coach somebody for 3 sessions. The goal was, hey, in 3 sessions, can you build empathy? Can you build a relationship? Can you be successful? And the in that first session, we hit it off fairly well. I shared 2 different frameworks. How I knew I was successful is I sent an email with follow-up, because accountability with 3 sessions, I have to drive accountability.
Sure.
Here's the follow-up session. Here's the accountability stuff.
Yeah.
And her response was, last night, Mitchell, I had it. I had an aha moment, and I can't wait to tell you about it.
Oh, fantastic.
And that's when I knew I hit it. And that's
Yes.
what that as a coach, that's what we want. We want somebody to go, oh, I see the world differently. I got it
Mm.
now.
No, no.
Right? That's the fun.
I often say to people at times when those moments happen, I go, I feel like a happy old uncle. That you've actually you've made an impact on or an impact on somebody's life. I say I'd almost do this for nothing, almost.
Hey Lee,
Uh,
what's your definition of legacy then?
well, certainly legacy besides family with, I've got 4 grandsons these days. So there's the
Oh,
legacy of
nice.
family and, in that side. But from a business point of view, legacy for me, it will not be that different to you in that I want people around the world teaching the CZ6 color zone sales and sales leadership system. Because I don't want it to die with me, that it's just a part of my work on a computer. I want it in the hands of people and living and breathing well and truly before I go, knowing that we've made such great impact right around the world with it. But that's just been me. My challenge now is putting into the hands of other leaders as either in-house certified coaches or external coaches who then are running a number of businesses, so that there's one scalability, but also, as you say, legacy. That it's not just sitting in my computer.
I,
Does that
I
answer
have
the question?
yeah, it does. I have a slightly different one, maybe a suggestion, right? So
Mm.
my most basic definition is what people think about you and say about you when you're not in the room,
Oh, sure. Yep. Yep.
right?
Yep.
And
Mm.
and that one is powerful because
Yes.
that's family, that's people you work with. It also
Mm.
implies
Mm.
that, maybe 3, 4, 5 decades from now, people don't do that anymore, and maybe that doesn't matter.
Mm.
Okay. And
Mm.
that's okay.
Yeah.
One of the reasons, and I didn't know I did this, one of the reasons or one of the legacy pieces I'm leaving is my dissertation. And I
Yes.
hadn't realized that, Lee. So I'm writing a dissertation and I'm writing and standing on the backs of really powerful people.
Sure.
Like Edward Deming, Peter Drucker, and then lots of other resources I found. And I'm putting out there an asset that other people can come by and build on top of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, will I be able to monetize executive abundance as much as I want to? It doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Because But what I will be able to do is at least say that that's part of my legacy out there.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
in a environment, so in the academic space, it is expected that you
Yes.
build on other people's work and they build on yours. So
Yes.
I'm just putting that out there as a potential,
Yes. Yes. No,
as
good
a
point.
potential something to do. And what I don't want to have happen, one of my clients is 83, has touched the lives of millions and millions of people. Now, the business model that this person had, and I'm trying my best not to use sex, so you can
Sure.
imply who it is, but the
Yep.
business model this person had was when they reach a certain age, they will sell their business
Hmm.
for the IP, for the books, for the clients. And once again, starting in 2023, that level of business, that business model went away. People
Mm.
don't do that anymore.
Mm.
It took this person a long time to understand the difference between being successful because lack of success was 5 decades of
Yes.
touching millions of people, but
Mm.
because they weren't able to sell the business, they're not successful anymore. And I
Yes.
that's the only thing I want to mention is the for those who are listening, those that are watching, you want to set yourself up for whatever success ultimately means to you that you know is very achievable,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I by the way, I love the concept. The when I read through your website and the success you brought to so many people, your model clearly works. Now the question is the model you? Is the model,
Mm.
is you such an important part of the model? And that does matter, right?
Mm. Mm.
Um, and then the question, what else can you do to make sure when you're on your last, last dying days, you
Mm.
said to yourself, man, I've done everything I can in life and I'm happy.
Mm. Mm.
Because
Mm.
Lee, that's all that matters,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
And so that's the thing that, I've got clients many different ages and when you're living in a world where the rules of the game get pulled out from underneath you
Mm.
overnight,
Mm.
I mean, think about anyone who's a factory worker. They may not have jobs in the future.
Yeah.
Think about any teachers going forward. They may not have jobs. Think about
Yeah.
like there's so much of humanity that will not be able to earn a living in the way they used to.
Mm. Mm.
Now,
Mm.
were they taught how to do something else, or were they taught what success could be? And so I'm saying, is there a model that you could in place that you can put in place that you can guarantee you'll be successful, period?
Mm. No matter what, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
that's a very powerful question. I'll meditate on that. My meditation, I meditate in the morning, and I should be doing it at 4 o'clock in the afternoons as well, twice a day. But certainly, I do my 5 a.m. meditation. Before we move into the final home straight of the interview, because we've been going well over an hour now, close to an hour and a half.
Yeah, I'm
So
thinking this is a little bit long for you.
I know that's okay. That's okay. No, no, it was late also where you are. So, is there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to cover before we move into the home straight?
The what I often say to people, and this is why I thank you for going to the website. If this has inspired you in some way,
Hmm.
particularly if you're running a company, I think the combination of having a good sales team, but also empowering the employees with executive abundance could be very powerful.
Yes.
You can go to the mitchelllevy.com website and book time directly on my calendar.
Yes.
Um, I'm for me, life is about finding partners to have fun with.
Yeah. Nice. I like that. Life is about finding partners. I like that.
And
Yeah.
and and actually, I hadn't said this yet. So, because oftentimes people say, hey, Mitchell, how do you do so many companies? What do you do? It's really simple. So, Lee, let's say we liked each other. Obviously, we do. And we go, hey, we're going to do something together.
Yeah.
Great. The first thing we're going to do is we'll find a mutual client to work on. We'll agree whatever monetary change we have, and then we'll pick up the client. Now, if we never pick up the client, we don't do anything together. But
Sure.
what we're not going to do before the first client is talk, other than shake hands and say what the 50-50 split is, we're
Mm.
not going to actually write contracts or do any of this other stuff.
Mm.
Now, when the client's done, by definition, shit will hit the fan sometime during the process,
Mm. Mm.
and
Mm.
we'll make it interesting that we like working with each other. Is that you would say the same things I would say when I'm not in the room, and vice versa. And then we look at each other and say, "Was it fun? Do we want to do it again?"
Mm.
And if
Mm.
the
Mm.
answer is yes, then we write all the contracts up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Nice.
And that is a model I've used because, in practical reality, when tension happens and stress happens, sometimes the things come out that are not clear, that other people hide. And if you just like who people are and what they did, and you want to do more of it together, then you do more. And that's sort of, you asked me a little bit, that's been part of my operating system,
Yeah.
right? To find people that I do things because they're fun and entertaining and I could add value. And it's better when I could do it with other people. It just is.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
No, well,
So
I like that as a definition. In fact, that's what I do as we move into the home. So I take a look at my notes. And there's 2 pages or more of notes here, and I'm just at random some of the points you made around uh, parallel entrepreneurial process, being the parallel entrepreneur, unlocking your superpowers, the whole concept of executive presence, transformational leadership. 65 books, mate. That's that in itself. There's a podcast on how the hell you write 65 books. And Mr. Remington behind you there, uh, 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 the chair of joy. What a great idea that is. Chunks of time and chunks of break, which I think Buckminster Fuller and others, many creative people, it's like as you work, rest. That there's an energy required around creativity where you need those chunks of break. And then you talked about the 5 stakeholder groups, which are so important: the CEO, the employees, the customers, the investors, community, and working with all of those. And then as you say, I love your model, the trusted, known, and like. Life is about finding partners to have fun with. I like that, mate. I know the other point you made up here: sell them what they want, give them what they need. I like that. I like that. But you reminded me when you were telling me that story of my mate, marketing guy Mal Emery, who's a guy over here in Australia who's very much a Dan Kennedy devotee, and he said sometimes someone needs to tell you that you've got an ugly baby. You know,
that's what happened to me a year
yeah,
ago. It was
yeah.
great.
They're so in love with we're so in love and enraptured with our business idea, and only a good friend will say, "Mate, that's an ugly baby." You know, we need to relook at that. And of course, as you say, it's a shock. I love the quote. I think it's from the guy that wrote The Road Less Traveled, Scott Peck. I think he said, "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off," or words to that effect. You know. But it's only in doing that, and the person having the courage, which again, as a coach, sometimes we have to at least either facilitate the person coming to their conclusion that the baby's ugly, or that the strategy or tactic that they're using, or at times you might have to say, "Mate, that is an ugly baby." It's just about that coachability. But Mitchell, thank you so much for today. There's so much information in here, and let's talk about what we can do. As you say, the executive abundance and the area of sales. And Salesforce abundance is so critical, because we want to say to people, there's plenty of business out there. We just have to find ways to attract it, or manifest it, or win it, or all three of those things. But so, Mitchell, anything you'd like to say before we wrap up?
I'm not saying whatever you say is right or wrong.
Sure.
No, we'll book time on the calendar. I would love to work with you to craft your CPOP, and you already know it. It's already out there. I just didn't see it directly,
Sure.
right?
Okay.
And I'm happy to gift that to you. That'll be fun. And it's important that someone who's a potential partner at least sees your superpower first,
Yes.
because
Brilliant.
you're going to see the pattern of what to do with it.
Yes.
And
Okay.
in your world, that's going to be different than what I do in my world. And that's where the magical will potentially allow us to work together.
Okay, well let's do that. Let's find out what the Lee Funnell CPOP is, and then see where that leads. I think
Perfect.
at one stage Buckminster Fuller said something. A thought doesn't come for no reason, and I think people don't come into your life for no reason. You've come into my life via your agent. Here we are. We're sharing you with Australia and my audience. And let's see what we manifest as a result of that. But Mitchell Levy, thank you so much for your time today, mate, and sharing. Namaste.
My pleasure. Have yourself a great day. And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Leading your best life would lay like the fire.